Bear cub was trapped in a shipping container, bound overseas. What this baby did was shocking. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll help us to remain in touch with amazing people like you. The morning air at Harborside Port was thick with salt and diesel fumes. Massive cargo ships lined the docks, their hulls towering above the weathered concrete like metal mountains. Cranes swung back and forth, moving shipping containers with mechanical precision. The rhythmic clang of metal against metal filled the air. In a small cottage at the edge of the port property, 2-year-old Lily Chen pressed her tiny hands against the window. Her mother, Sophia, was washing dishes in the kitchen, humming softly while her father Daniel worked on his laptop in the corner. Nobody paid attention to the toddler watching the busy world outside. The little girl's eyes were drawn to movement near the tree line. Something brown and furry stumbled between the containers. It was small, maybe the size of a large dog, but it moved differently. The creature sniffed around the base of a blue shipping container, its nose twitching as it followed some invisible trail. Bear cubs weren't supposed to be here. The nearest forest was miles away, separated from the port by highways and industrial buildings. But this young cub had wandered far from home, following the scent of discarded food from the workers' lunch area. Now it was lost, scared, and hungry. The container door stood slightly open. Inside, someone had left a bag of sandwiches on a wooden pallet. The smell was irresistible to the hungry cub. It squeezed through the gap, its fur brushing against the cold metal edges. The bag was just within reach. The cub grabbed it with its teeth, shaking its head to tear open the plastic. Behind him, the door began to move. A worker named Marcus Williams was making his rounds, checking containers before they were loaded. He didn't see the small brown shape inside. His rough hands grabbed the heavy door and pushed. The metal groaned as it swung shut. The locking mechanism clicked into place with a final metallic snap. Inside the container, darkness swallowed everything. The cub dropped the sandwich bag, suddenly aware of its mistake. It pushed against the door with its small paws. Nothing moved. The metal walls were cold and unyielding. Panic set in. The cub let out a high-pitched whimper that echoed in the confined space. Back at the cottage window, Lily's eyes widened. She heard something. A sound that didn't belong with the usual port noises. Her small hand patted the glass urgently. "Mama," she called. But Sophia was running water in the sink, the sound drowning out her daughter's voice. The shipping container was scheduled for loading in 3 hours. Destination: Shanghai, China. A journey that would take weeks across the Pacific Ocean. The paperwork was already complete. Marcus had moved on to check other containers, unaware of what he'd trapped inside. The cub scratched at the door, its claws making desperate scraping sounds against the metal. The air inside was already getting warm. Thin streams of light filtered through rust holes near the top, but they offered no escape. The sandwich bag lay forgotten on the floor. Lily turned from the window and toddled toward the kitchen. She tugged on her mother's pants leg. "Mama, baby," she said, her limited vocabulary struggling to express what she'd seen. Sophia smiled down at her daughter, wiping her wet hands on a dish towel. "What baby, sweetheart?" She assumed Lily wanted to play with her dolls. The toddler shook her head frantically. She pointed toward the window, then made a sound, something between a whimper and a cry. It was her attempt to mimic what she'd heard. Sophia's smile faltered slightly. Something in her daughter's tone was different. This wasn't normal play behavior. Outside, a crane operator named Rick Thompson started his machine. The massive arm swung toward the row of containers scheduled for the next ship. 3 hours could become 2 if they worked efficiently. The port manager was pushing for faster loading times. The cub's whimpers grew louder, more desperate. Its small body pushed against every surface, searching for weakness. But shipping containers were built to withstand ocean storms and stacking pressures. A 50-pound bear cub had no chance against steel walls designed to hold 20 tons. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She didn't understand why the fuzzy creature had gone into the box or why the box had closed. But she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. She pulled harder on her mother's pants, then turned and walked determinedly toward the front door. "Lily, wait," Sophia called. But her daughter was already reaching for the door handle, standing on her tiptoes. The lock was too high, but her intention was clear. She wanted to go outside. Daniel looked up from his laptop. "What's going on?" He watched his daughter's unusual behavior with growing concern. Lily rarely acted this agitated. The toddler made the whimpering sound again, louder this time. She pointed urgently toward the docks. Her small face was scrunched with worry, an expression that looked oddly mature on such young features. In the container, the cub slumped against the wall. The initial panic was giving way to exhaustion. The air was getting thicker, harder to breathe. Time was running out, and nobody knew a life hung in the balance inside that dark metal box. Sophia knelt down beside her daughter. The tears streaming down Lily's face weren't the usual tears of a cranky toddler. These were different. Raw. Desperate. The mother's instincts kicked in. She placed her hands gently on Lily's shoulders. "Show me, baby. Show Mama what's wrong." Lily grabbed her mother's hand with surprising strength. She pulled Sophia toward the window, her small legs moving as fast as they could. At the glass, she pressed both palms against it and made that strange whimpering sound again. This time, Sophia heard it too, faint but distinct, coming from somewhere outside. Daniel joined them at the window. The family of 3 stood there, looking out at the busy port. Workers moved between containers. Forklifts carried pallets. Everything seemed normal, too normal. But Lily kept making that sound, kept pointing at something specific. The cub tried to stand again. Its legs shook with the effort. The darkness was complete now, except for those thin beams of light from above. The container smelled of rust and oil and fear. The cub's mother was somewhere out there, probably searching frantically. But the forest was so far away. Too far. Marcus Williams stopped to wipe sweat from his forehead. 20 years of working the docks, and the job never got easier. He checked his clipboard. Blue container, number 4471-B, scheduled for Shanghai. Check mark. Next container. He moved on, his heavy boots echoing on the concrete. Lily's frustration grew. She wasn't getting through to her parents. She toddled to the toy box in the corner and grabbed her stuffed bear. She held it up, then pointed outside again. "Baby bear," she said clearly. 2 words together. Something she rarely did. Sophia and Daniel exchanged glances. Their daughter was trying to tell them something about a bear, but that was impossible. There were no bears at the port. This was the city, industrial area, miles from any wildlife. The cub's breathing became labored. The container wall seemed to press closer. Instinct told it to climb, to escape upward, but the smooth metal offered no grip. Its claws scraped uselessly against the surface, each attempt weaker than the last. "Maybe she saw a dog," Daniel suggested. "You know how she calls every animal either kitty or bear." But Sophia wasn't convinced. She'd seen that look in her daughter's eyes before. The time Lily had found an injured bird in the garden. The time she'd noticed the neighbor's cat trapped in their garage. Rick Thompson maneuvered his crane into position. The blue container was next on his list. He'd done this thousands of times. Lock onto the corner castings, lift, swing, lower onto the ship, simple. He took a sip of coffee from his thermos and engaged the controls. Lily's voice rose to a near scream. "Baby bear, help, help!" She rarely strung 3 words together, but desperation gave her voice new power. She ran to the door again, this time managing to turn the handle. The door swung open. "Lily, no!" Sophia lunged forward, but the toddler was already outside. Her tiny feet hit the gravel path that led toward the docks. She'd never run this fast before, never been this determined. Behind her, both parents gave chase. The crane's massive hook descended toward Container 4471-B. The magnetic locks engaged with a solid thunk. Rick pushed the lift lever. The container rose slowly from the ground, swaying slightly in the ocean breeze. Inside, the cub felt the world tilt. The sudden movement sent it sliding across the floor. New panic, different panic. The whimpers turned to frightened yelps. The sound carried through the rust holes, but the engine noise of the crane drowned it out. Lily reached the chain-link fence that separated the cottage area from the main dock. Her parents caught up, both breathing hard. Daniel bent to pick her up, but she squirmed away, pointing frantically at the blue container now hanging 20 feet in the air. "Bear, baby bear!" She was crying hard now, her whole body shaking with urgency. She made the whimpering sound again, louder, more desperate. And then, impossibly, they heard it. An answering cry from somewhere above. Sophia's blood ran cold. There was something alive in that container. Her daughter had been right. But how? Why? The container was swinging toward the ship now. In minutes, it would be loaded into the cargo hold, sealed away for weeks. "Stop!" Daniel's voice cut through the port noise. He waved his arms frantically at the crane operator. "Stop the crane!" "There's something in that container." Rick Thompson couldn't hear the shouts from his sealed cabin. He was focused on the job. Line up the container with the ship's hold. Lower carefully. He'd done this dance 1,000 times. His hands moved the controls with practiced ease. The cub felt the container dropping. The change in motion made its stomach lurch. It pressed itself into a corner, trying to make itself small. The darkness was suffocating now. The air thick and stale. Every breath was a struggle. Lily broke free from her parents' grasp. She squeezed through a gap in the fence that adults couldn't fit through. Her pink dress caught on the wire, tearing, but she didn't stop. She ran toward the crane, her tiny voice screaming words she'd never used before. "Help! Baby bear, please!" A dock worker named James Morrison noticed the commotion first. A toddler on the dock? That wasn't right. That was dangerous. He dropped his clipboard and ran toward her. Other workers began to notice too. Shouts arose, fingers pointed. The container was 10 feet from the ship's deck when Rick saw the crowd gathering below. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He stopped the descent, leaving the container suspended in midair. He opened his cabin door. "There's a kid down there," someone shouted. But Lily wasn't just any kid having a tantrum. She was directly under the hanging container, jumping up and down, reaching her arms toward it as if she could somehow touch it. "Bear!" she cried. "Baby bear inside!" "Help!" James reached Lily first. He scooped her up, trying to carry her to safety. She fought him with surprising strength, pointing at the container, making those strange whimpering sounds. And then he heard it too, faint but unmistakable, an animal's cry coming from inside the steel box. "Rick, hold the crane!" James shouted at the top of his lungs. Other workers began to gather, forming a circle around the suspended container. Sophia and Daniel had found a gate and rushed onto the dock, their faces pale with fear for their daughter. "Baby bear! Save baby bear!" Lily's words were getting clearer, more urgent. She reached toward the container with both arms, tears streaming down her small face. James felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't a child's imagination. Something was really in there. Rick's voice crackled over the dock's speaker system. "What's going on down there? I've got a schedule to keep." "There's something alive in this container," James shouted back, still holding the struggling toddler. "The kid keeps saying there's a bear." Laughter rippled through some of the gathered workers. A bear in a shipping container? Impossible. But then they heard it. A weak, muffled cry, not human, definitely not human. The laughter died instantly. Inside the container, the cub had managed to climb onto the wooden pallet. Being higher gave it a tiny bit more air from the rust holes above, but its strength was fading. The container's swaying motion made it dizzy. It called out again, a sound of pure desperation that its mother would have recognized from miles away. Marcus Williams pushed through the crowd. His face had gone white. "I checked that container 2 hours ago. I closed it myself. There was nothing." His voice trailed off as the implications hit him. He'd trapped something inside. Something that was now dying because of him. Lily squirmed harder in James's arms. Her little hands kept reaching, kept grabbing at air. "Baby bear's scared. Baby bear needs mama." How did she know? How could a 2-year-old understand what even the adults were just beginning to grasp? The port supervisor, Angela Rodriguez, arrived on scene. 25 years of experience, and she'd never seen anything like this. A possible animal trapped in a container about to be shipped overseas. The legal implications alone were staggering. But more than that, the thought of a living creature suffocating in that metal box made her stomach turn. "Lower it down, now," she commanded. Rick responded immediately. The container began its descent, inch by careful inch. The workers cleared a space on the dock. Lily had gone quiet, but her eyes never left the container. She sucked on her thumb, something she hadn't done in months. Her other hand clutched James's shirt. "Baby bear sleeping?" she whispered. The cub wasn't sleeping. It was conserving what little energy it had left. The strange voices outside meant nothing. The swaying motion had stopped. That was good. But the air was still thick, still hard to breathe. Its eyes were starting to close despite its efforts to stay alert. The container touched down with a metallic groan. Marcus ran forward with bolt cutters. The lock was heavy-duty, designed to withstand ocean storms and potential thieves. His hands shook as he positioned the cutters. "Everyone back," Angela ordered. "If there really is a wild animal in there, we need space." But Lily wouldn't be moved. She'd stopped struggling in James's arms, but her eyes remained fixed on the container door. The lock snapped. Marcus grabbed the handle with both hands. Years of dock work had given him powerful arms, but fear made them weak. What if it really was a bear? What if it was angry? Scared animals were dangerous animals. Sophia reached for her daughter. "Come here, baby. Let the workers—" "No!" Lily's voice was fierce. "Baby bear needs help, now." She'd never spoken with such authority, never shown such determination. It was as if something beyond her years was driving her. Marcus pulled. The door resisted, its hinges protesting with metallic screams. Inch by inch, daylight began to penetrate the darkness inside. The crowd held its breath. Even the usual port noises seemed to pause. The first thing they saw was the sandwich bag torn open, its contents scattered. Then, in the far corner, a small brown shape. Fur, moving slightly with each labored breath. Not a full-grown bear, a cub, maybe 6 months old, far from home and barely conscious. "Oh my God," someone whispered. The crowd pressed closer, then remembered Angela's warning and stepped back. But Lily had no such fears. She wiggled free from James's grasp and ran forward before anyone could stop her. "Baby bear!" She dropped to her knees at the container's entrance. Her tiny hands reached out, not with fear, but with the pure compassion that only very young children possess. "It's okay. Lily, help." The cub's eyes opened slightly. Through its haze of exhaustion and fear, it saw the small human. No threat there. Just another baby like itself. It tried to lift its head but couldn't. A weak whimper escaped its throat. Daniel moved to grab his daughter, but Sophia caught his arm. "Wait," she whispered. Something was happening. Something extraordinary. The cub's breathing seemed to ease slightly. Its eyes focused on Lily's face. "Mama coming," Lily said softly. She couldn't possibly know about the cub's mother, searching frantically in the forest miles away. But somehow the words felt right. Baby bear safe now. The cub's eyes closed again, but its breathing was steadier. The fresh air flowing into the container was helping. Angela was already on her phone, calling animal control, wildlife services, anyone who might know how to handle a bear cub. Marcus stood to the side, his face a mask of guilt. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was in there. I was just doing my job." James placed a hand on his shoulder. "Nobody's blaming you. How could you have known?" But Marcus blamed himself. He'd be hearing those desperate cries in his dreams for years to come. Lily scooted closer to the container entrance. Her parents watched nervously, but she showed no signs of fear. She began to hum. It wasn't any recognizable tune, just a soft, soothing sound. The same sound Sophia hummed when Lily had nightmares. The cub's ear twitched. The humming was different from the harsh port noises. It reminded it of something. Its mother's contented rumbling when they'd found a good berry patch. Safety. Comfort. Home. "Ambulance is coming," Angela announced. "Animal ambulance, I mean. They'll know what to do." She looked at the gathered crowd. Everyone back to work, show's over. But nobody moved. They couldn't look away from the tiny girl comforting the scared cub. Rick climbed down from his crane. His coffee was cold, forgotten. In 30 years of dock work, he'd moved thousands of containers. Never once had he wondered what might be inside beyond the manifest listings. Now he'd never lift another container without thinking of this moment. The cub tried to stand. Its legs wobbled but held. It took one shaky step toward the door, then another. Toward the light. Toward the strange little human who somehow understood its fear. Lily stretched out her small hand, palm up, the way her mother had taught her to greet dogs. "Hi, baby bear, Lily friend." Her voice was gentle, patient. The crowd held its collective breath. Even the seagulls circling overhead seemed to pause in their cries. The cub sniffed the air. This tiny human smelled different from the others. No fear, no aggression, just something warm and safe. It took another step, its nose almost touching Lily's fingertips. Then, in a moment that would be talked about in Harborside Port for years to come, the cub gently nuzzled the toddler's hand. A gasp ran through the watching workers. Someone was filming with their phone. This would be on every news channel by evening. But Lily didn't care about any of that. She giggled softly as the cub's wet nose tickled her palm. "Silly bear," she said, her other hand moving slowly to stroke the cub's head. The fur was softer than she'd expected, though matted with sweat from its ordeal. The cub leaned into her touch, its body trembling, but no longer from fear alone. Angela's phone rang. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the Wildlife Rescue Center was on her way. "Keep everyone back," the vet instructed. But if the child has already made contact and the cub is calm, don't separate them yet. Sometimes animals know things we don't. The words proved prophetic. As Lily continued to pet the cub, its breathing grew steadier. The trembling eased. It even managed a weak attempt at play, batting at Lily's dress with one small paw. The toddler laughed, a sound of pure joy that seemed to wash away the tension on the dock. But then came a new sound, a deep, concerned bellow from somewhere beyond the port fence. Every head turned. At the edge of the tree line, barely visible, stood a full-grown bear, the cub's mother. She'd followed her baby's scent for miles, crossing highways and dodging traffic, driven by maternal instinct. "Everyone stay calm," Angela commanded, though her own heart was racing. An adult bear on the property was a different matter entirely. She reached for her radio to call security. The cub heard its mother's call. Its head snapped up, ears perked. It tried to run toward the sound but stumbled, still weak from its confinement. Lily caught it gently, her small arms wrapping around its middle. "Mama bear coming," she announced matter-of-factly. How she knew the relationship no one could say. Baby bear needs mama. The mother bear began to pace along the fence line. She could smell her cub, could hear its responding cries, but the chain-link barrier stood between them. Her powerful claws scraped against the metal, testing its strength. Daniel stepped forward protectively, ready to grab his daughter, but Sophia held him back again. "Look at them," she whispered. Lily was holding the cub, but not restraining it. The cub could have pulled away easily, even in its weakened state. But it didn't. It seemed to trust this tiny human. Marcus had an idea. "The south gate," he said suddenly. "It's manual override. We could open it, let the mother through." "Are you insane?" Rick protested. "A wild bear on the dock." But Angela was considering it. The mother bear wasn't showing aggression, just desperation, and they needed to reunite the cub with its parent somehow. Animal control was still 20 minutes away. "Clear a path," she decided. "Everyone to the warehouse. We'll open the south gate and let nature take its course." It was risky, possibly career-ending if something went wrong. But watching Lily with the cub, she felt they had to try. The workers moved quickly, efficiently. Years of dock work had taught them to follow orders in dangerous situations. Within minutes, a clear corridor stretched from the south gate to the container. Only Lily, her parents, and Angela remained in the open. "Sweetie," Sophia said softly, "the mama bear is coming to get her baby. We need to step back now." Lily looked up at her mother, then down at the cub in her arms. Understanding dawned in her young eyes. "Baby bear go home?" "Yes, honey. Baby bear needs to go home with its mama." The toddler's face scrunched up as if she might cry. She'd saved the baby bear. It was her friend now. But even at 2, she understood some things. She pressed a kiss to the cub's furry head. "Bye-bye, baby bear. Be good for mama." She set the cub down gently and stepped back into her father's arms. The cub whimpered, looking between Lily and the direction of its mother's calls, torn between its new friend and its family. Marcus reached the south gate. His hands were steady now, driven by the need to make things right. He yanked the manual release. The gate swung open with a metallic shriek. The mother bear didn't charge. She moved cautiously, her nose testing the air. The humans had backed away. Only her cub remained in the open, calling to her with increasing urgency. She began to approach, her massive form moving with surprising grace. The dock workers watched from the warehouse windows. Many had phones out, recording the unprecedented scene. A full-grown black bear walking calmly through their workplace, headed for a shipping container where her cub waited. The reunion happened 50 yards from where Lily watched in her father's arms. The mother bear reached her cub and immediately began checking it over, her large tongue cleaning its fur, her nose prodding for injuries. The cub pressed against her, making small sounds of relief and joy. "Mama bear happy," Lily observed. "Baby bear happy too." The mother bear suddenly looked up, her eyes finding the human family. For a long moment, she stared directly at Lily. The toddler waved, a tiny hand movement that somehow conveyed everything: the rescue, the comfort, the love she'd shown the cub. The bear snorted once, a sound that might have been acknowledgement or thanks. Then she gently picked up her cub by the scruff of its neck, the way bear mothers have done for millennia. The cub dangled peacefully, exhausted but safe. As the pair moved toward the open gate, something unexpected happened. The cub twisted in its mother's grip, looking back at Lily. It made a sound, soft but distinct. A goodbye, perhaps, or a thank you. Lily blew it a kiss, and the cub settled back into its mother's hold. Dr. Sarah Mitchell arrived just as the bears disappeared into the tree line. She'd been prepared for a complex rescue operation. Instead, she found a dock full of emotional workers and a tiny girl being hugged by her parents. "What happened here?" she asked Angela. The supervisor shook her head, still trying to process it herself. That little girl saved a bear cub, and somehow she knew exactly what to do. The vet knelt beside Lily. "You helped the baby bear?" Lily nodded solemnly. Baby bear was scared. In the dark box, Lily helped. "You're a very brave girl," Dr. Mitchell said, "and very kind. The baby bear was lucky you heard it." As the excitement died down and workers returned to their duties, life at Harborside Port slowly returned to normal. But not quite the same normal. The blue container was taken out of rotation, pending a full investigation. Marcus requested a transfer to a different section, unable to shake the memory of those cries from the dark. James found himself checking containers more carefully, listening for any sounds that didn't belong. Rick double-checked his crane loads, wondering what else might be hidden in those metal boxes, and Angela instituted new inspection protocols, including thermal imaging for containers left open near wooded areas. That evening, the Chen family sat around their dinner table in unusual silence. Lily pushed peas around her plate, occasionally looking toward the window where she'd first spotted the cub. Her stuffed bear sat in the chair beside her, a guest at dinner for the first time. "Baby bear eating dinner too?" she asked suddenly. "With Mama bear?" Sophia smiled softly. "Yes, sweetheart. They're probably having berries and fish in the forest." "Good fish?" Lily nodded seriously. Then, after a pause, "Lily saved baby bear?" "You did," Daniel confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "You were very brave. Daddy's proud of you." The local news had already picked up the story. Angela had fielded calls from 3 different stations. The footage from workers' phones was spreading across social media. Toddler saves bear cub from shipping container was trending. But the Chen family had declined all interview requests. This wasn't about fame. It was about something much deeper. That night, as Sophia tucked Lily into bed, the toddler asked, "Baby bear come back?" "I don't think so, honey. Baby bear lives in the forest with Mama bear." Lily considered this. "Lily visit? Maybe someday we can go to the forest, but baby bear is wild. It belongs there." The toddler hugged her stuffed bear tighter. "Lily miss baby bear." "I know, sweetie, but you gave baby bear the best gift. You gave it back to its mama." As her parents left the room, Lily whispered to her stuffed animal, "You watch for baby bear, okay? Tell him Lily says hi." 3 days passed. Life at the port returned to its rhythm. though the story of the bear cub rescue had become legend. Workers shared their versions of events during the lunch breaks, each telling added new details, new drama. But they all agreed on one thing. The little girl had shown them something extraordinary. On the fourth morning, something unusual happened. Sophia was making breakfast when she heard Lily's excited voice from the living room. "Mama, Mama, come see!" She found her daughter pressed against the window, pointing outside. There, at the edge of their small yard, sat the mother bear. The massive animal was perfectly still, watching the house. And beside her, looking healthier and more energetic, was the cub. "Oh my God," Sophia breathed. "Daniel, come here, now." The family gathered at the window. The bears were maybe 30 feet away, closer than any wild animal should be to human habitation, but they showed no signs of aggression. They simply sat there as if waiting. "Baby bear!" Lily's voice was full of joy. She waved frantically. The cub's head tilted, and then, impossibly, it seemed to wave back, lifting one small paw. "Did that just happen?" Daniel whispered. The mother bear stood slowly. She nudged her cub, and together they began to walk toward the tree line. But just before disappearing into the woods, both bears turned back. The cub made that same soft sound it had made at the dock. A goodbye, a thank you. Then they were gone. "They came to visit," Lily announced happily. Baby bear not forget Lily. Word spread quickly through the port community. The bears had returned. Not to the dock, but to the cottage where their savior lived. Workers began leaving small offerings at the forest edge. Apples, berries, fish. Not to attract the bears, but as a sign of respect. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the wildlife vet, was fascinated. "This kind of behavior is extremely unusual," she told Angela over coffee. "Bears avoid human contact. For them to deliberately approach, to bring the cub back to show the child, I've never seen anything like it." A week later, a package arrived at the Chen cottage. Inside was a hand-carved wooden bear, along with a note. "For the bravest little girl at Harborside Port, from all of us at Dock 7. It was signed by 20 workers, including Marcus, James, and Rick. Lily clutched the carving, her eyes wide. "Baby bear," she exclaimed, though this one would never need rescuing. The incident changed policies at ports across the country. The Lily Protocol, as it became known, required thermal imaging of all containers before shipping, especially those near wildlife areas. The little girl who saved a bear had started a movement without even knowing it. 1 month after the rescue, the Chen family was invited to a special ceremony at the port. Angela presented Lily with a Junior Honorary Safety Officer badge. "For exceptional bravery and compassion," she said, pinning it to the giggling toddler's shirt. The crowd of workers applauded. They'd seen accidents, injuries, close calls in their years on the dock. But they'd also seen a miracle. A tiny girl with a huge heart had reminded them that every life mattered, even the ones they couldn't see. As the ceremony ended, someone pointed toward the tree line. 2 shapes sat at the forest edge, watching. The mother bear and her cub. They'd come to witness this human ritual, this celebration of their rescue. "Look, baby." Sophia lifted Lily so she could see better. The toddler waved enthusiastically. "Hi, baby bear. Hi, mama bear. Lily got medal." The bears watched for another moment, then melted back into the forest. But they'd return. Every few weeks, always at dawn or dusk, they'd appear at the edge of the Chen property. Never approaching too close, never staying too long, just checking in, just remembering. The story spread beyond Harborside Port. Nature documentaries featured it. Children's book authors requested permissions, but the Chen family kept their daughter's life as normal as possible. Lily was too young to understand fame. She only knew she'd helped a friend. On quiet evenings, Daniel would hold his daughter and marvel at her instinctive compassion. "How did you know, little one? How did you know the bear was in trouble?" Lily would shrug, more interested in her toys. Baby Bear called, Lily heard. It was that simple, and that profound. A child's pure heart had heard what adults had missed. A cry for help had found the one person who wouldn't ignore it. The blue container, 4471-B, was retired from service, transformed into something else. Port workers converted it into a break room, painting murals of bears on its walls. A plaque by the door read, "Sometimes the smallest voices make the biggest difference." In memory of the day Lily saved the bear. Inside, workers would eat lunch and share stories. The container that had almost become a death trap was now a place of life and laughter. Full circle, redemption. 6 months had passed since the rescue. Autumn was painting the trees around Harborside Port in shades of gold and crimson. Lily, now speaking in fuller sentences, often told anyone who would listen about her baby bear. The story had become part of the port's identity, a source of pride for everyone who worked there. But on this particular October morning, something was different. Lily woke with an urgency she couldn't explain. She padded to her parents' room, her stuffed bear dragging behind her. "Mama, Papa," she whispered, tugging at their blanket. "Need to see baby bear, now." Sophia mumbled sleepily. "Honey, it's too early. The bears are sleeping." "No." Lily's voice was firm. "Baby bear needs Lily, please." Daniel sat up, instantly alert. He'd learned to trust his daughter's instincts. They'd saved a life once. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Lily's brown eyes were wide with worry. "Baby bear hurt. Lily knows." The parents exchanged glances. There was no reason to believe anything was wrong. The bears had visited just last week, both appearing healthy. But Lily's certainty was unsettling. "Okay," Sophia decided. "Let's go look." They dressed quickly and walked to the edge of their property where the forest began. The morning mist clung to the trees, making everything look otherworldly. Lily stood at the fence, her small hands gripping the wire. "Baby bear," she called. "Where are you?" Nothing. Just the usual forest sounds. Birds beginning their morning songs, leaves rustling in the breeze. Daniel was about to suggest going back inside when they heard it, a sound that made their blood run cold. A bear's cry, but not the healthy call they'd grown accustomed to. This was different. Pain-filled. Desperate. That way, Lily pointed decisively toward a section of woods they'd never explored. Without hesitation, she began walking along the fence line, looking for a way through. "Lily, wait," Sophia called, but her daughter was determined. At the corner of their property, where the fence met a small stream, there was a gap. Lily squeezed through before her parents could stop her. "Lily!" Daniel's voice was sharp with fear, but he and Sophia followed, pushing through the gap with more difficulty. The forest floor was soft with fallen leaves. Lily moved with surprising confidence for a child who'd never been in these woods. She seemed to know exactly where she was going, following some invisible path. "Baby bear hurt," she kept repeating. "Lily, help." They'd gone maybe 100 yards when they saw them. The mother bear was pacing frantically around a large oak tree, and there, caught in an old, illegal trap that someone had left in the woods, was the cub. Its right paw was caught in the metal jaws, blood staining the leaves beneath. "Oh, God!" Sophia gasped, instinctively pulling Lily back. But the toddler broke free, running toward the injured cub. "No!" Daniel lunged forward, but stopped short. The mother bear had turned toward them, But instead of charging, she stepped aside, her eyes locked with Lily's, and in them was something unmistakable, a plea, a mother to a mother, asking for help. "She knows," Sophia whispered in amazement. "She knows Lily helped before." The cub whimpered, trying to pull its paw free but only causing more pain. The trap was rusty but strong, its teeth biting deep into the flesh. Lily dropped to her knees beside it, tears streaming down her face. "Bad trap," she said angrily. "Bad people hurt Baby Bear." Daniel's mind raced. They needed tools. They needed help. But there was no time. The cub was losing blood. He examined the trap mechanism. It was old-fashioned, spring-loaded. If he could find the release... "Sophia, call Dr. Mitchell. Tell her it's an emergency." He handed her his phone. "Lily, sweetheart, can you keep the baby bear calm, like you did before?" Lily nodded solemnly. She began to hum again, that same tuneless melody. Her small hand stroked the cub's head gently. The injured animal seemed to relax slightly, recognizing its friend. The mother bear watched every movement, her powerful body tense but trusting. She could have torn them apart in seconds, but instead she waited, hoped. Daniel found the release mechanism, but it was rusted shut. He needed leverage. Looking around frantically, he spotted a fallen branch. Working carefully, knowing one wrong move could worsen the injury, he wedged the branch under the release plate. "Almost there," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. The mother bear moved closer, her hot breath on his neck, not threatening, watching, understanding. With a final push, the mechanism gave way, the trap jaws sprang open. The cub pulled its injured paw free and immediately tried to limp toward its mother, but it couldn't put weight on the damaged limb. Lily gently caught the cub. "No walk, paw hurt, wait for doctor." Amazingly, the cub listened. It settled back down, its trust in the little girl absolute. The mother bear sniffed her baby, checking the injury. Then she did something extraordinary. She lay down beside Lily, creating a protective circle around the injured cub. Dr. Mitchell arrived 20 minutes later, followed by 2 rangers. They stopped short at the scene before them. A massive mother bear lying peacefully beside a toddler who was cradling an injured cub. "I've been working with wildlife for 20 years, Dr. Mitchell breathed. "I've never seen anything like this." She approached slowly, speaking in low, calm tones. The mother bear lifted her head, assessed the newcomer, then looked at Lily. The toddler nodded encouragingly. "Nice doctor. Help baby bear." As if understanding, the mother bear relaxed again. Dr. Mitchell knelt beside the cub, her practiced hands examining the wound. "It's not as bad as it looks," she announced with relief. "No broken bones, but it needs cleaning and antibiotics." She worked quickly, cleaning the wound and bandaging the paw. The cub whimpered occasionally, but never struggled. Lily kept humming, her presence a constant comfort. "He'll need daily treatment for a week," Dr. Mitchell explained. "Normally we'd take him to the center, but..." She looked at the mother bear, then at Lily. "I don't think Mama Bear would allow that." "Come here," Lily said simply. "Doctor, come here. Lily, help." And so began a week of extraordinary cooperation. Every morning, Dr. Mitchell would arrive at the Chen cottage. Lily would lead them to a clearing where the bears waited. The mother would step aside, allowing the vet to treat her cub while Lily provided comfort. Word spread quickly. Rangers investigated and found 3 more illegal traps in the woods, remnants from poachers years ago. They removed them all, making the forest safe again. The story made national news. The little girl who'd saved a bear cub twice. On the 7th day, Dr. Mitchell removed the bandages for the last time. The wound had healed well. The cub tested its paw, then took a few tentative steps. No limp, full recovery. Lily clapped her hands with joy. Baby bear all better. The cub ran to its mother, then back to Lily, as if showing off. It was fully healed, ready to return to normal bear life. But first, one more goodbye. The mother bear approached Lily. For a moment, woman and beast were face to face. Then, in a gesture that would be debated by animal behaviorists for years, the bear gently touched her nose to Lily's cheek. A kiss? A thank you. A blessing. Love you too, Mama Bear, Lily said softly. The bears turned to leave, but this time there was no sadness. They'd be back. This was their territory now, shared with the small human who'd twice saved their lives. The forest and the cottage were connected by something stronger than fences. As the weeks turned to months and months to years, the bond between Lily and the bears became the stuff of legend. The cub grew stronger, larger, but never forgot the little girl who'd saved him twice. The mother bear aged gracefully, her trust in the Chen family unwavering. When Lily turned 5 and started school, she wore her junior safety officer badge on her backpack. During show and tell, she spoke about her bear friends with such conviction that her teacher initially thought it was an elaborate imagination. Until the day the class took a field trip to Harborside Port. Angela herself gave the tour, ending at the converted container break room. On the wall was a new addition, a framed photograph that James had captured on his phone that fateful day. It showed tiny Lily holding the frightened cub, both of them so small against the backdrop of massive shipping containers. "That's me," Lily announced proudly to her classmates, "and that's my baby bear." As if on cue, 2 familiar shapes appeared at the forest edge. The mother bear and her cub, now nearly fully grown, sat watching the group of children. Lily's classmates gasped in amazement. "They come to see Lily," Angela explained to the stunned teacher. "They never forget." Years flowed by like water. Lily grew from a toddler into a young girl, then a teenager. Her passion for wildlife, sparked by that first rescue, never dimmed. She volunteered at Dr. Mitchell's Wildlife Center, learning to care for injured animals. Her college applications would speak of a calling discovered at age 2. The bears aged 2. The cub became a magnificent adult, finding a mate and starting his own family. The mother bear's muzzle grew gray, her movements slower but still graceful. Yet their visits to the Chen cottage never stopped. When Lily was 18, accepted into veterinary school with a specialization in wildlife medicine, the bears came one last time as a pair. The old mother moved stiffly now, her years catching up. Her son, for he would always be her baby, supported her with gentle nudges. Lily, no longer little but still small compared to the massive bears, sat with them in the garden where so many visits had taken place. No words were needed. The mother bear's eyes, still bright despite her age, held volumes of gratitude and love. "Thank you," Lily whispered, her hand resting gently on the bear's graying fur. "For trusting me, for teaching me, for showing me my purpose." The mother bear leaned into the touch one final time. Then, with her son's help, she disappeared into the forest. Lily knew, with that deep instinct that had always connected her to these creatures, that this was goodbye. The old bear had lived far longer than most wild bears, as if she'd been waiting to see Lily grown, to know her cub's savior had found her path. 2 weeks later, rangers found the mother bear's body in a peaceful grove, surrounded by wildflowers. She'd passed naturally, surrounded by the forest she'd called home. But her legacy lived on, in her son, in her grandcubs, and in a young woman whose life had been forever changed by a cry for help she'd heard as a toddler. At her veterinary school graduation, Dr. Lily Chen wore a small silver bear pin on her collar. Her parents sat in the audience, tears in their eyes, remembering the determined toddler who'd saved a bear trapped in a shipping container. In her valedictorian speech, Lily spoke of compassion transcending species, of how the smallest acts of kindness could ripple outward in ways we never imagine. She spoke of a bear cub's cry that had called to her across space and understanding, and how answering that call had shaped her entire life. "We all hear cries for help," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Sometimes they're obvious. Sometimes they're as faint as a whimper from a metal box. The question is, will we listen? Will we act? Will we be brave enough to help even when we're small and the problem seems so big?" The audience erupted in applause, but Lily's eyes were drawn to the windows of the auditorium. There, just visible at the tree line, sat a large male bear. Her baby bear, now a father himself, come to witness this moment. He raised one paw, the same paw once caught in a trap, now strong and whole, in what could only be a wave. Lily waved back, tears streaming down her face. Some connections transcend explanation. Some bonds defy logic. And sometimes, just sometimes, a 2-year-old girl with a stuffed bear can save a life and find her destiny in the process. The harborside port still operates, ships still come and go, containers still stack high against the sky. But everyone who works there knows the story. And in the converted break room, beside the photo of little Lily and the bear cub, hangs a new picture. Dr. Lily Chen in her white coat, surrounded by the wild animals she's dedicated her life to saving. The circle is complete. The baby who heard a cry for help became the woman who answers them. And somewhere in the forest, a family of bears thrives, their lives forever intertwined with the humans who showed that love knows no boundaries. On quiet mornings, when mist clings to the trees and the world is just waking up, if you listen very carefully near the old blue container, you might hear it. The echo of a small voice saying, "Baby bear, Lily help." And you'll know that miracles aren't always big. Sometimes they're as small as a toddler's brave heart, but they change everything forever.